What's going on, gamers? Here we are again back on the Warrior for our Zero to Hero challenge. If you missed the first episode, I spent time setting up my basics on my Warrior. Keybinds, action bars, gears, legendaries, you name it. Well, actually, that's it. Honestly, it was pretty simple stuff. If you want to see my starting process for a new character, go check that out, it'll be linked on screen. Today we are continuing our journey to Keystone Hero. I think today is the perfect day to continue gearing up this character through Zereth Mortis, getting a few power spikes through conduits, and definitely setting up a main warrior weak aura package. I might even try a key or two. So join me as we suffer together through LFG. Let's go. Really quick, if you end up enjoying this video, or you can relate to my experience, leave a comment or a like. A comment like, Shah, LFR sucks, I feel your pain. Something like that. Yeah, that's good. While I put a fair bit of anima into my super rad 226 gear, we are far from being optimal. 32 light years to be exact. So we got some work to do. So what steps can I take to get it geared? Well, there are a few things that I always like to keep in mind when gearing. And I typically categorize these into two different categories, flexible gear and non-negotiable gear. So what's the difference? Well, things like tier, trinkets, and legendaries I would say are more non-negotiable. We need to have foresight. Legendaries are fairly locked in, and like most other classes, there are going to be BIS trinkets. Flexible gear includes any other items like rings, secondary slots like bracers, boots, rings, neck, etc. When thinking about loot and targeting gear, something I often do is I make a BIS list. Yes, I know, I'm a nerd, but what this does is it gives me a general idea of what type of content I need to tackle without wasting too much time within that content that won't really benefit me outside of a little bit of a dopamine rush. My ADHD brain will thank me later when I have a reference point to look back to and a destination that's provided. For this, I like to use sub-creation to determine stat preferences and then an in-game dungeon journal to determine which places drop that loot. What I typically do is I put this all into an Excel document, and then now this is me casually trying to enter a transitional point in the script to time travel to a point where this is already done. Now we know what type of loot that we're looking for, and we're going to have an idea of what dungeons we should prioritize. Now, while we are chasing IO, loot is definitely going to be a priority. At the end of last episode, it occurred to me that I have 0 conduits. Some of you have pointed out actually where I should get those conduits, and I definitely agree I need to fix that pronto. Luckily for us, there are 2 ways to do this. First, we can actually head to the Flightmaster in Ouroboros. Right here, there is a vendor that sells a whole bunch of goodies. One of those things being item level 200 conduits. Along with that, if for some reason you aren't 40 renown yet, you can also buy an item that boosts you right up to 40, which if my math is right, is halfway to 80. Now, while I was writing the script, they actually announced 925, which this boost is going to actually get you up to 60. But no, we're not going to be doing that, mainly because we're dumb. Another way to get conduits is by doing Zereth Mortis campaign, which should increase my reputation with the Enlightened to friendly, which in turn gives me the ability to buy a font of ephemeral power from my boy Vilo. Italians. This is an easy way to get full 226 conduits. When I first saw this item at the start of the patch, I was like, what kind of idiot doesn't have 226 conduits by now? Well, me. I'm that idiot. So here's my plan. I'm gonna get drunk, watch The Office, American version of course, and blast this Zereth Mortis campaign. I've done this questline about 5 times so far, so I'm just gonna go through the motions. This should take about 2 hours. What? Don't judge me. I'm slow, and I'm doing it as a 226 prot warrior with no conduits. This should accomplish 3 things. First, we have conduits, of course, like I just talked about. This will get me 226, which, according to my sims, is roughly a 1000% increase to my character. 2, it's also going to get me Super Chad renown leveling. For those who don't know, almost each main chapter of the quest rewards a renown. This means you can quickly accumulate upwards of 30 renown levels during the quest chain. It may or may not be 30, but I have the footage, but honestly, I'm way too lazy to look at it. Also, it awards anima, so I picked up the Fill the Reservoir quest from my Covenant Hall for a free renown at the end. Lastly, we have our Belt of Unity, which obviously I just made the 210 Lego, which cost me about 2k gold. Luckily, I did make it in my belt slot, or was it luck? I actually plan on making a 291 belt in the future, but finishing the campaign will give me a 265 legendary belt. New players will need to get their first Unity this way. I'm going to be using this as a temporary stat stick for the time being. While the secondary stats aren't perfect, the raw item level will typically outweigh that. Also, mastery isn't horrible when it comes to survivability. After I completed the first 6 chapters, I hit friendly, so let's quickly pick up those conduits. We're going to take this little font over here over to the Forge of Souls, and boom, super conduits. This should help me finish up the campaign to snag that 265 legendary belt. After a short time, we killed Argus, and this blue guy turned into a gold guy, and mission's accomplished. That's as much as I pay attention to the story. Alright, we finished the campaign. Let's see where we're at. So we were able to grab a 265 belt from completing the campaign, obviously. The quest chain itself also gave us 233 item level pieces, which would be a helm and a chest. While not anything crazy, they are upgrades and we're gladly going to take them over the 226 gear. While doing the campaign, I was also able to snag a few treasures and rares. One even dropped a super dope one-handed weapon. Oh, agility, never mind. We also got a necklace with speed. This should help me get to Keystone Hero faster. Who writes these jokes? Let's quickly take a gander at our conduit setup as well. After filtering through subcreation, this seems to be the build that most people are running, I think. There is still a ton of room for improvement. Obviously, conduits can go all the way up to 265 item level, and until I hit 3k, which will then give me access to 278. I could technically kill some mythic bosses to try to get a few 278 conduits, but we aren't going to try to do that for a few reasons. 1, cross-realm raiding isn't active at this time of recording. 2, there is no way my guild's going to actually bring my trap character to mythic. And then number 3, that would defeat the point of the challenge. What's super nice is that conduits drop from dungeons, so just by running keys, we're going to get max conduits eventually, so I'm not going to be really worrying about this too much. Patch 9.2 reintroduced tier into the game. Also known as tier sets, these items are super powerful, and unlike older expansions, there is a ton of ways to obtain tier. These include Raid, of course, the Great Vault, and the Creation Catalyst. We're going to go over these in the future, but let's just jump into Raid Finder to see what we can fish for. There are 2 trains of thought. We can either just go for tier bosses, or we can use LFR to fill the vault. We're going to go for the latter. How bad could it be? Well, the answer is very. Raiding is not what the series is about. Originally, I was just going to make a montage of kills and loot, but man, oh man, I need somewhere to vent. The first wing I got into was Domination's Grasp, which contains Andrew, the Power Couple, and Jedi Master Star-Lord Rajelli. For some goddamn unknown reason, LFR tanks are complete losers. They don't taunt, they don't read DBM, nor do they pay attention to their tank partner getting slapped into the earth. I'm a privileged player. I don't use LFR almost ever, but goddamn, this is a miserable experience. How hard can it be to match colors? Taunt. Just taunt. Fuck. Just cue the montage, or this is going to be a real negative video.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way.
We walked away with 3 conduits, though not great. Also, we got a ton of anima, Jesus. We also got a bunch of augment runes just filling up the desired role, but also more importantly, we got 239 pants with crit haste and tier gloves. These are huge. They were one of the items that we were chasing. While they aren't that high of an item level, similar to legendary powers, their tier bonus will be worth way more than the item level. Another nice thing about LFR is that you get a ton of Cosmic Flux, which is a reagent that we actually use for both legendary crafting and gear transmutation. We can use this to reroll items for better stats down the road, or to create powerful tier slots that we are chasing. Luckily, Cosmic Flux is farmable and comes from all sorts of content. We should have plenty of it for all of our needs. With LFR out of the way, we are looking good in the vault. We have 3 choices of raid items for the reset tomorrow. 3 choices means we've also maximized our coins, if none of the choices are good. What was nice about getting to do Zereth Mortis campaign and raiding is that I got to feel out the class and take notes on certain things that bothered me. For example, I was having to hit avatar and my racial independently from each other, which is just not optimal. We want to try to minimize our keybinds. So what we can do is make a macro to have them be on the same keybind to be used in conjunction with each other. This can be done with abilities that are on and off the global cooldown naturally. While Avatar has a CDR element to it with our talent choice anger management, I can still use both of them on the same keybind. Another thing that bothered me was having to click to place my Ravager and my Spear of Bastion. We can fix this pretty easily with an @cursor macro. This means that the ability will just be used wherever a cursor is located. Not all abilities are great for at-cursor macros, or at least in my opinion, I don't enjoy using them for everything. Sometimes I think accuracy is more important in the heat of battle, and sometimes it's difficult to see where the cursor is at despite having a cursor tracker. Things like Heroic Leap I'm going to keep as a keybind and as a click. Another thing that really annoyed me was the bar space that Whirlwind was taking up. I know this is super minor, but what we can do is we can create a modifier macro which allows us to bake it into our Revenge ability. Now when we hold down the Alt key, it will turn Revenge into Whirlwind. I don't know if I'll ever actually need to use Whirlwind, but for now it's out of the way, but it's still there if we need it. Last but not least, a mouse over macro for our Intervene. We need to optimize our legendary power appraisal, and having to target an ally just to use Intervene can mess with targeting, especially in a key. I plan on making another Intervene macro down the road, but we're going to stick for this for now. That should cover our macro setup, so let's quickly test them. Perfect. This is something I've always put off for way too long on all my characters. Sometimes I'll grab a basic setup from wago.io, but I never really been a fan of complex and clutter that people use. Just, it's not for me. So we're gonna make a more simplistic, custom weak aura set for my warrior. I need the basics so I can start optimizing certain elements of my gameplay like shield block uptime, or damage reduction cooldowns, or even rage management. I'm not gonna go through my whole process, but what I wanted to include in this weak aura group is a shield block charge tracker and uptime tracker, avatar demo shout, shield wall, and last stand tracking, along with this a health and rage bar that is cleaner and more centralized instead of having to look down into the corner of my screen to look at my Blizzard default unit frame. There is no doubt in my mind that I will need more to this weak aura, aka I'm already way ahead of this point in real life, and I definitely added more to this weak aura in the near future. Episode 3. I hope you enjoy spoilers. Later down the road, I could make this a weak aura package available for you guys, but for now, and until I perfect it, it's going to be mine and mine alone. Alright, it seems to be set up, and we should be good to go. Alright, the moment you've all been waiting for. Key time. We can quickly reference our sheet to see which keys we want to aim for. I know I should just be happy with any key that I can get into, but I like to try to kill two birds with one stone if I can. I am fully aware I need a ton of gear before I can even get close to 3k, so why not start now? IO is going to come naturally anyways. I know that I'm not a bad player, but pugs aren't going to know that, so without having any IO, a low item level, no main attached to this character, and being a protection warrior, I definitely have the cards stacked against me. So it seems to be pretty difficult to get into keys, which is something I completely expected. After multiple queues with no bites, I decided it would be best if I ran an M0 in order to get my own key. Having my own key meant that I was in control, which removes most of the issues with pugging. I picked the dungeon, I picked the group, and no one can really say no. I can be as lenient or as picky as I want. For the M0, I decided to go with halls, and for several reasons. It's easy and it's common. It's a key most people run to even level with, so by the chance I do pug someone who's new to the game, more than likely they are familiar with this dungeon, compared to something like Theater of Pain. Also, halls drops 4 main slot items, including helm, shoulders, chest, and pants, and since I already have tier gloves, there's no reason to try to not target other items so I can get my 2 or 4 set. Lastly, it is a quick key. I mean, most M0s are quick, but halls can be absolutely slammed. I grabbed the first 4 people who queued and we got underway. Co-Grip of Sargeras, Nexting of Area 52, Alpius of Hydraxis, and Tyrion Puddin of Illidan were the first players to join me on my quest to become the thickest pancake, and they did not disappoint. We absolutely blasted through the dungeon, mowing down enemies, both big and small. The first useful item that dropped was actually from Echelon, the Wing Commander Helm. Sadly, this item went to Tyrion Puddin, but little did I know that this man, or woman, would make my day in a few minutes. After defeating Edgelord Chamberlain himself, a trade window popped open, and Tyrion Puddin would become my new best friend. Not only did he trade me the helm, but I also looted a chest from the third boss, so I was ecstatic. These were massive power increases. With Valor, the currency used to upgrade PvE items now being uncapped, I'm able to, if I so desire, to upgrade this gear all the way up to 272 and turn it into tier. And that's what I did. Well, kind of. I converted my helm into tier, giving me a 2 set. I really want to get used to playing with the 4 set as soon as possible. With 2 set now equipped, we are ready to farm some actual keys. Now that I have my own key, we can actually start our journey, so let's get some IO. Sadly, M0s don't fill any vault slots, and with it being Monday night, we are going to try to blast a quick key or two. Ideally, we will complete my miss key so quickly that we get a 5 key out of it, and that's just what we did. Joining me was Hades of Tichondrius, Skidda of Illidan, Finmaster of Hydrol, and Jinxin around of Mal'Ganis. While not the strongest start to miss I've ever seen, it was just us practicing MDI, of course. Luckily, warriors have a great ability called Challenging Shout, which acts as a mass AoE taunt. This is incredibly strong for these types of situations where things accidentally get pulled or your DPS just rip threat. Luckily, we survived and cleaned up the rocks for the rest of the key. After just a short 12 minutes and 38 seconds, I got my first 68 points of IO. Only 2,932 more points to go. I was originally going to call it a day, but then my key turned into a Necrotic Wake, which A, drops good loot, but also B, gives me a stronger vault option for the Mythic Plus section. So back to the Group Finder we go. After a few quick minutes, we filled Meg of Illidan, Uselok from Hydrol, Aminette from Firetree, and Mr. Tomahawk Chow. Great name. Join me for this key, and we once again blasted. Just because I'm a noob doesn't mean I'm not going to go big dick. So I'm going to do this first pull as big as we can. We decided to Lockgate skip later in the dungeon, which can be extremely useful if you're looking to skip a mini boss. But I also found out that Warrior doesn't need visibility pots. Heroic Leap is so fun. At the end of the key, while I got no loot, I did get a big Unnerving Focus Conduit and another 97 IO, so that's still a win. After 2 days of ups and downs, we are feeling good. So after Zereth Mortis, Raid Finder, and a few dungeons, we are sitting at a healthy 234 item level. We snagged a 2-set, a massive 265 Lego, and some decent main set items like chest and pants. Let's hit the hay and get ready to check our vault once Realm resets tomorrow. Weekly vaults can be a huge power gain for everyone, but upgrades come in all shapes and sizes. While my vault offered me a weapon, a trinket, and a pretty massive cloak upgrade respective to my current gear, I decided to actually take coins instead. Now someone might ask why. Well, good question, whoever you are. These 6 coins can be turned into Flux, which is an extremely important resource. It allows me to craft 291 Legos, which I still don't have. They also allow me to convert primary slot gear into tier, which I still need. While Flux is farmable, it's also slow to farm. But now having these coins, they have a transfer rating of 1 coin to 500 Flux. So 6 coins is essentially 3,000 Flux, which is huge. That's 2 tier items that will get me my 4 set now. With it being a new week, I'll be able to jump back into LFR, do some dailies, hunt some treasures for more Flux, but we're gonna save that for the next episode. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like. My dad said he'll come home from the store if I get 200 likes. Honestly, I didn't think it took that long to buy cigarettes. But stay tuned, next time we're going to go over how to quickly obtain